Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. On Wednesday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen presents her annual State of the Union address. Now, the speech in Strasbourg covers key issues from defense financing, potential EU enlargement, economic policy, and Europe's role on the global stage. Now, to understand the subtext, we're joined by Tomasz Zając, analyst at the Polish Institute of International Affairs. Welcome to TVP World. Good to have you. Now, that speech is actually still ongoing right now. She's taking comments from MEPs, so it's still ongoing. But let's start with what we have. And her opening lines, very much about Europe must fight. I'm quoting here that the battle lines for New World Order are based on power, and they're being drawn right now. So what do you make of that? I mean, what does this tangibly mean to you? And you hear this coming from someone who's heading very much a peace project, but what do you make of those opening lines?
Sure. So clearly, I think this is new European mainstream. And since 2020, actually, what happened is basically European, like you rightly said, being a peace project, morphed a little bit into something new. So into a project that is aware of the fact that we cannot just, send non-lethal weapons to the country in our neighborhood. And just the European Union started to transform into something more. So clearly this new mainstream, this awareness among European elites that we have to deter Russia and its imperialistic tendencies, which clearly has been seen, what happened in Poland today, the intrusion of the drones. This is one of the, plethora of evidences of the situation that we're actually in. So this shows that this new mainstream is still holding, and that Ursula von der Leyen wants to continue into this direction. Like the opening line, Europe, is in war. I think everybody's feeling that, and what she is trying to do is trying to push EU towards, this new direction. And what she actually announced, there was a few announcements regarding the defense policies, the wall of drones, the defense semester. We can go into details more in a while. But I think those are, again, more and more of the signs how the European Union is transforming and is trying to be accountable, of its neighborhood and just being, responsible for its own security.
Mm-hmm. In security defense, those have been issues that have been louder and louder from the European Commission in particular. I mean, with today's events, I want to come back to that just this morning. I mean, this unprecedented event, just for our viewers, just to remind them again of the drones, the Russian drones that were shot down over Polish airspace by Polish jets. That's something unprecedented, hasn't happened before. She also said this in her speech, saying that the European Union fully stands in solidarity with Poland. As you rightly pointed out, there's defense things. She recently came back from a trip, also touring the frontline states. She was in Poland, she was in the Baltic states. Do you think now, because of what's happened today, there could be potentially more money available in some way for more defense projects as a result of this?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think this changes dramatically the situation. Unfortunately, I think already, a lot of EU countries, they're struggling with their debts. They're struggling with how much money they have to spend already. France is a very good example of a country, and the ousting of the François Bayrou yesterday. And the topic of the debt was, one of the key topics that he wanted to make it, the key issue of the debate. But there are clearly different sensibilities regarding the urgency of the situation. And clearly the fact that, in Poland, the eastern flank, we feel it much more strongly than countries on the west. So this is also, I think, one of the tasks of Ursula von der Leyen. She tries to constantly remind citizens and political elites in the West that this danger is real and it is urgent. So still, I don't think the situation changes that much in terms of how much money will be spent. But I think what is a good news that the direction which we're heading in the European Union, this has changed. And the SAFE program, yesterday there was this announcements regarding how much countries, 19 countries actually applied for the scheme, for the program. Poland will be one of the biggest beneficiaries of this program. So there are some actions that are taken by the European Union, and I think that won't change in the near future. So that's a good news. And what the president of the European Commission stated today, it only shows that they try to squeeze more and more ideas, more and more monies from what is offered by the EU budget.
Yeah. Speaking of squeezing there, Tomasz, I want to ask you, because one of the things she mentioned, obviously with support for Ukraine, that continues. The European Union has been a supporter of Ukraine. But this new thing is reparations loan is what we're calling it. This is about tapping potentially, once again, into those frozen Russian assets, around 300 billion of them. That still hasn't been successful. That's still something that European leaders are not quite united on. Is this going to be a success now, this new, let's say, initiative that she's been proposing? We don't have too many details yet.
Yeah, that's true. So everything depends on the details. My understanding is that this will be another kind of loan scheme, like the one already in place, and the Russian assets will be the garant of it. But again, I don't know the details, so I'm not sure about that. But it is true what you said, that this is a bone of contention, and the freezing of Russian assets. And some countries, among which Poland, wants actually to just seize those assets and pay reparation for Ukraine, for all the suffering, all the damage that Russia has done to this country. But unfortunately, there is no consensus on that. Belgium, in which actually the entity, let's say, who is holding those assets, called Euroclear, Belgium is afraid of the fact that if they seize the funds, they will be financially liable, actually, to pay them back if ever, like international court will say so. So they are afraid of this. Germany, for instance, is afraid of the fact that this is a sort of a precedent, and if we do this, this might somehow, be harmful for the economic stability of the European economy, because there won't be this this feeling that the money put in the European Union, are more or less safe. So, but again, there are like always a lot of legal arguments and a lot.
But you spoke on Tomasz. I want to interrupt you there for a second. You spoke of precedent as well. Today is a precedent as well. The first time that Poland or NATO forces have actually shot down on NATO territory these drones. Does that convince potentially these holdouts in any more, let's say, stronger action? If it's Russian asset seizing, is that going to convince maybe countries like Belgium or Germany to maybe do more?
Yeah, I would hope so. But again, I think that the thinking there, it's not, the understanding of the situation, there is consensus on that. But the arguments that I think are convincing for these decision makers, this situation, what happened today, this doesn't apply to their reasoning, right? The fact that there was an intrusion of drones on Polish territory, that doesn't convince them that okay, there won't be like economic harm if we seize Russian assets. So but I understand your thinking there, and again, I also hope that this will somehow make them realize how urgent the situation is, and that we are, in European Union, we try to be like very, very law-abiding, thinking about the rules, etc. But the other actor doesn't actually abide to those rules. So we also should, take a little bit step back and think like, okay, we're trying to follow those rules, but if the other actor doesn't want to play by those rules. Why should we? So, this is one of the arguments. But again, I also hope that this situation will somehow influence the decision makers.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot else in the speech. I just want to get a little bit, we're coming towards the end just briefly. What stuck out for you, what stuck out for me just quickly is von der Leyen saying about energy, about including renewables and with a base load of nuclear. Just tell us your main takeaways just briefly here at the end.
Sure. So I think actually the change of the tone regarding Israel, the fact that the European Commission will try to put on hold the trade agreement, that's something that was long due, I think, and there was a lot of actors also try to influence European Commissions toward this. I mean, this is a good PR take, but the fact that Ursula von der Leyen mentioned, the European electrical car, that's something I don't really think this will, come to fruition. But it's something that is interesting that they maybe they will put some kind of a political way to try to come up with something like this. And also this disinformation centers, it also sounds interesting to me. Disinformation is a big issue and we're struggling with it in Europe. So I'm just curious how this will play out here.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, I mean, there's a lot in the speech. Of course, now comes time for policymakers to analyze it, what's coming up next, and we'll do that, of course, in the coming hours and days. Look, we'll close it there. Thank you so much. That was our guest here this morning, Tomasz Zając. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but there is much more coming up, so don't go away on TVP World.